Monograms are very much in vogue again, and while there are many embroidery programs that make creating a monogram a snap, creating one with a little more complexity like these interlocking ones requires a little bit more work. In Embrilliance Essentials, you have predefined templates that make creating 3-letter monograms very easy. You type in your letters, you select your style, and poof, there it is on the screen. But what I'm going to do today is show you something a little bit more advanced. And you can see that these have a little bit of intricacy going on. This part goes under, and then it goes over there. On this one it goes over, under, and under there. So I've just used 2 built-in letters, and then I've edited them. This is in Embrilliance Essentials that has been upgraded to Enthusiast. Enthusiast is an add-on. It gives you a little bit more features, and one of them happens to be stitch editing, which really gives you a lot of power to do a lot of cool things. So let's get started. We'll start by creating a new document, and then I'm going to add my letters. So I'm just going to use 2 letters, one for my first initial and one for my last, and I'm going to set them as separate objects on the screen. So I'll set that, and then I'll pick my font. And I have lots of fonts here, and I'll pick that one. I'm going to enlarge it a bit. Then I'll copy and paste, and you can see that I have 2 of them. If you look at the Objects pane, I'll drag one of them off, and I'll change that to a G and set that. So there are my 2 letters, and I can play around and move these around as much as I want until I find a layout that I like, and we'll just do something kind of like one of the ones I showed you before. We can get really intricate, but the process is all the same. So there are my 2 letters, and I'm going to select this one and change it to a different color. And this just makes it working on screen easier because it's real easy to see which letter is which. And I'll scroll that up a bit. So let's lock this letter because we're going to do most of the work on the L. And by locking this letter, I can prevent it from accidentally getting goobered up. So now I'm going to zoom in, and this is the part I'm going to work on because this part already goes under and I want that part to go over. So that's what you have to do first, is decide what pieces you want to go where. So there I am zoomed in, and I need to cut this piece out. And to do that, we'll just go into the stitch editor, and I'll select those stitches just by dragging a lasso around them. There we go. And I'm going to split it off, and there is that piece over there. Now we've taken an object and just whacked it into 2 sections. So that's not always a good thing to do, to just leave it like this, because there are no tie-off stitches. And we need to have some stitches that will lock in the ending stitches on this one and the beginning and ending stitches on this one. Now, Embrilliance makes this so simple to do, it's just silly. So let's see how to do that. To know where we need to put the tie-off stitches, where to find the beginning and last stitch in an object, we can do a virtual sew out on the screen. So to do that, I'll click on the stitch player, stitch simulator, and we can see this big red bar is our first letter. This kind of beige bar is our second letter, and this little bitty red strip out here is our little tail. So let's move out to the tail, and we can see that it starts right there. So it's actually doing underlay first, which is very good. And it comes back and it underlays, and then it's going to zigzag out. So the ending stitch is out here at the end, and the beginning stitch is down here. So we'll go back to the editor, and we will hide this one and hide this one. And I'm going to turn off 3D, it just makes it easier. And there's that first stitch. We can see it's got a jump stitch going to it. And all I have to do is select it, right click, and ensure tie off before. And then somewhere up here we need to find the last stitch. It already has tie-offs on it. I can see that right there. So those are the little tie-offs right there. So we can just let that one be. Then we'll hide this one and show this one. So I need to put a tie off there because that's where I've just whacked it. And it has tie offs on the beginning, so I don't have to worry about that. And we'll say ensure tie off after. And that's all there is to it. So I can show those, and we can zoom out. We'll turn 3D back on. We'll go back out to normal view. There's our letter, and I'll select that, and I'll say I want it to go back to red. There's my monogram. And that's pretty much how simple it is. Now, yes, you can get more intricate by having more things going under and over, more letters, but that's really all that's involved in it. This is ready to test sew and ready to see. Now, it's always nice to do a virtual sew out of the whole design on the screen, because I do want to point out one thing here. As we sew this, you may not have noticed that, but if we go back here, you'll see that this part ends right there, and then it jumps over and it does that little piece. This is the difference between digitizing and editing. If I had digitized this, I would have had this all be one continuous piece with all the over-unders worked in, and there'd be no jumps at all in the design. Because we're working with elements that are already digitized, we can't really change the in-out points. We can't do a lot of that kind of thing. Now, yeah, you can mess with the stitches forever and get it to do that, but if you're only going to sew this a couple times, the trade-off between spending time working on the design to get every little stitch exactly efficient would be humongous versus the time you'd spend cutting those little jumps. You're going to have 2 jumps in this design. There's really no way to avoid it unless you redigitize it. So I hope you'll give this a try. It's a lot of fun to create your own designs, and you don't have to be a full-blown digitizer. You can take elements that are already done and edit them and make your own. So go have some fun.